investments around the globe to reshape what the future of the industry looks like, to overcome the challenges of contested logistics. And contested logistics aren't just in the Pacific. They're also located in Europe. They're located in Africa. So we're going to have to overcome that contested logistics challenge. We are going to be more nimble. We have to be. It's the way that certainly the U.S. government has asked us to be.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Future of GovCon. This is a weekly podcast to bring together experts from across the industry and look at what's happening today and how it's going to impact the future of our industry. I'm Jake Frazer. I'm the owner and CEO of Precision Talent Solutions. In leading one of the industry's top executive search firms, I get to talk to influencers every day. C-suite executives, board members, growth leaders, top government officials, military flag officers. And on this podcast, what we're doing is we're bringing in these experts from AI, from space, from medical, from logistics, from engineering. And we're sitting down and talking about what's happening in their specific area of the industry and how it will impact the future. So pour a cup of coffee and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Future of GovCon podcast. We have the pleasure and the honor of having as our guest today, Mr. John Gastright. John is calling in from the greater DC area, I believe, today, though he travels the world all the time. I've known John for years now. Feels like years. We have the fun of serving together on the ISOA International Stability Operations Board of Directors. We're going to talk a lot about that today. For John is coming back for his second round as the chairman. John also has an illustrious career going all the way back to the Citadel, into the Navy. He's done some really interesting things in his career, worked old school DynCorp. A lot of you know the old school DynCorp, and also is now the senior vice president at Amentum, deals with all the external relations. So he's really well placed across the industry. And he also is the president of a think tank. It used to be Project 2049. We'll talk about that in a minute. Focused on the Indo Pacific. So John, thanks so much for being on our podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you, Jake. Really excited for the opportunity.
So you have this great track record in government contracting and previously in the military. We're kind of closing out a very interesting year in 2025. And so I'm going to be interested hearing today, you've been around the block, you've seen this industry evolve. So very interested today, get your perspective from these different seats that you had, leading one of the top associations, working inside one of the top integrators and leading a think tank essentially. So we're looking forward to all the different angles of John Gastright.
Excellent.
Great. So let's get started. Let's let people know John Gastright, the person. We see you in the press. We see you at events, and I was lucky enough to, when you became chairman last time, I got to be there for the new chairman's reception and actually see pictures of you back in the day. But talk about growing up, education, military, early career.
Well, I'm originally from South Carolina. I grew up in the Charleston area. And so I graduated from high school, went across town to the Citadel, the military college of South Carolina. I had no idea it was actually going to be so damn military. And so that was one of my first shocks. I remember calling my father on the phone and saying, "Hey, I'm not so sure about this Citadel thing." And he said, "Well, I've already paid for the year, so you got to stay." And the rest is history.
Did you have
I graduated.
Military? Was your family anybody in the military? Like, was there?
Yeah, my father was a Navy doctor, and he one of his first duty stations was Charleston, South Carolina, and he got out after his tour was over, and we just never left. And so Charleston is where I was reared, and it is one of the most beautiful cities in the country, ranked consistently as one of the most beautiful cities in the country, perhaps in the world. And every time I go back home, back to Charleston, I often say to myself, "Well, why am I not back here?" But for the past 30 years, my career took me from Charleston to the Navy. I was a naval officer for 6 short years. I served in Sigonella, Sicily for the first 2.5. It was an amazing
Nice.
experience, where I also had the opportunity to participate in the first Gulf War, not doing anything significantly challenging other than supporting my aviation squadron. After that, moved to the Naval Academy, and I was working at the Naval Station, which lives across the river from the Naval Academy support facility. And I've been in this area ever since. And so that was 1991. So I've been here quite a while. I've been here in Croom, Maryland, which is where I live today. It's outside a farm in Croom, Maryland since 2000. And this is, at this point, it's hard to say that Charleston, South Carolina is my home. Croom, Maryland's my home. All three of my children were born here, have only known this house. And so this is where they'll plant me. Next to my hayfields, they'll plant me here.
You'll still be working. So talk about John as a kid. Were you a good kid? Were you studious? I think you were athletic. Were you not?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't studious. I definitely didn't apply myself academically the way I should have. I was an athlete, and I played, obviously, many sports in high school. I went to the Citadel Inn Park to be on the football team. I never touched the field during a game. I was injured my sophomore year, and that was the end of my illustrious football career. Um, but yeah, that was my major focus. My major focus was athletics. I have since become more studious. I After college, where I had middling grades, I went off and did my military service, and then I started pecking away at a series of degrees. I've got a degree from Catholic and a degree from the Naval War College, and I'm now working on a doctorate at Johns Hopkins, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot of effort. I do it at night.
In
And
your extra
so
time?
2 nights a week, that's right, 2 nights a week in my extra time. Um, that's what I'm doing. But it's a
What's your
lot of fun. It really is an opportunity to broaden my horizons and think beyond just sort of the day to day. And that's what I like about it. I like reading what the smart people are talking about and pushing myself to understand their perspectives, and the universe, the SICE program in particular, gives me that opportunity.
That's great. What's your PhD going to be in if you make it through?
International relations. It's called Doctorate of International Affairs. My concentration, not surprisingly, is East Asia Pacific.
Okay.
I'm about a third of the way through the program, so I have a while to go. And I'm honing in on sort of a concentration area that ultimately will be the dissertation, but I haven't crested that wave yet either.
Are you teaching them or
No, 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 um, just a student.
I did not know you're doing that on top of everything else. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Talk about the Navy time. You mentioned around aviation. What specifically were you doing in the
Yeah.
Navy?
So I like everybody and their brother in the late 80s, I saw Top Gun, and I said, man, I want to be a naval aviator. And so I one day went to the basically went and took what was that thing called? The AQTFAR. I don't even know what that stands for anymore. But it was the aviation flight aptitude test.
Okay.
Passed the test, shockingly. Um, and that same day went over to the military entrance processing center and took the physical and passed the physical. And a couple of weeks later, I was in Pensacola, Florida for officer candidate school. And I had gone to the Citadel, so it was a blast. I had such a good time at officer candidate school. I mean, they yell at you and that sort of stuff, but it was really it's a lot of fun. Um, while I was in officer candidate school, though, I went to the Naval Aviation Medical Institute, and I got what's called the NAMI whammy. In that,
Mm.
turns out I'm completely colorblind. I couldn't fly planes because I couldn't tell the difference between red over white over green. There's a big deal with red over white and green. So They said, "What do you want to do next?" I said, "Well, I'll try what else is on the agenda." And they had this aviation maintenance job in Sigonella, Sicily,
Awesome.
where a squadron was located. VR-24, Fleet Logistics Support Squadron 24. It flies what's called the COD, the Carrier Onboard Delivery Aircraft, big school bus looking aircraft, um, and delivers, among other things, the mail to the aircraft carrier. Um, the aircraft carrier and the air boss in particular hates the COD because it's huge. It takes up a lot of deck space. And so what they do is they deliver the mail, deliver the logistics and supplies, and then they kick the COD off as quick as possible. And so to continue to support the carrier, what we do is we move through the Mediterranean and basically staying within, we called it hitting distance. We could hit the boat, hitting distance from the aircraft carrier. And then as the boat got out of hitting distance, we'd move to another location. So we'd start in Spain, we'd start in Rota, we'd end up in Palma. We'd go from Palma back to Sigonella, Sigonella to Crete, Crete to Turkey, Turkey to Israel, and we go back and forth like that. Those are called detachments. So it's usually one or two aircraft. I was called the Advanced Detachment Officer, which I'm pretty sure was a made up job, which meant I got to those locations early and I organized messing and berthing and transportation, waited for the rest of the maintenance teams to show up. I paid our bills and then I moved to the next one. And so I did that for 2.5 years, and talk about an amazing
Man,
experience. I mean, my job was to move through the Mediterranean, and it was just remarkable, just a remarkable opportunity to grow a little bit as a young person, get a little feel for what the aircraft carrier was supposed to be doing, what the logistics support to an aircraft carrier looked like. But more than anything, it was a whole lot of fun,
man,
and
that sounds like the best job in the Navy, right?
it was the best job in the Navy. It was criminally a good time.
Yeah,
I should have
that's great.
never stopped being the advanced detachment officer.
So 6 years, why'd you get out? You had the best job in the Navy? What was what
Well,
happened?
I left SIG after my 2.5 years, went to the naval station, and you know, careers are full of forks, and I got to what I thought was a fork where I could stay and continue doing different things in the Navy, or I could get out and try something else. And so at the time, I decided to give Capitol Hill and politics a shot. And so I got out after my 6 years and went to Capitol Hill, and I served in a couple of offices over the course of 8 years. That then led me to an opportunity to serve in the George W. Bush administration, where I ended up as the coordinator for Afghan assistance and the deputy assistant secretary for Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh,
Wow.
which was a remarkable job, a remarkable opportunity to see government at a pretty senior level. Um, and did that for 5 years. And at the end of that, my government career was over. And so I joined industry. But, it was a circuitous path from the Navy to that government position at the State Department, but I wouldn't trade any of it. It was all fantastic. And I look back fondly at that experience. And it was certainly formative.
That's great. And so talk about going into industry. How did you wind up in DynCorp? What was it? Did you get recruited in? Did you know somebody?
Yeah. So it was January, December 2020, December 2007, going into January 2008. I'd been at the job at the State Department as the Afghan coordinator for 3 years, and it was extremely intense. The days were long. I usually got to the office at 6 to 6:30 in the morning. I stayed until 9, 10 at night. I traveled 40% of the time, and after 3 years, I was bushed. I was exhausted, and so I contacted my mentor, and the guy that brought me to the State Department was Ambassador Richard Armitage. Ambassador Armitage recently passed away, but he's truly a legend. And I learned so much from Ambassador Armitage over the course of not only my government career, but every day after there, I stayed in close contact with him until the day he passed. And I said, "Hey, I think it's time." And he made a call, and next thing I know, I got a phone call from DynCorp International. At the time, DynCorp was really heavily invested in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
A
The big
bunch of the
training
business
advisory program, right?
they were doing police mentorship, they were
Yeah.
doing log cap, they were doing lots of stuff, and felt that they needed some more connectivity to the U.S. government at a different level than the contract level. And so they brought me in to support that effort, and did that from, let's see, 2008 when I started. I started January 3rd, 2008, and stayed there until DynCorp sold to Amentum in 2020.
Yeah.
Great experience, great opportunity to learn about government contracting, the role of contractors. I got to see that obviously much more intimately than I did from a government perch, and met some great people along the way.
I think that helps to go from the military perspective into the government and then into the industry side, that so you can kind of see the full kind of the
Yeah,
supply chain.
definitely had a different perspective in each of my iterations. I mean, I was involved in logistics, maintenance, and sustainment in the Navy. At the Department of State, I was involved in thinking through how policies uh, would impact the mission. And we were constantly sort of developing plans that required a contracted solution. So if you're going to do police training in Afghanistan, there was no State Department police training capability. I mean, INL has a small capacity to do that, but Afghanistan was a big challenge for police training, and so we early on determined that we would need contract support to flesh that out, to make that into a substantial effort. And so I had the opportunity to think conceptually about utilizing contracts in that way. And that's just one example. And then obviously to go from the policy side to the actual execution side, and that's what we were doing at DynCorp. We were executing what the government said. Hey, go do this. We need this done. That was so important. That is the way things are done today. That nothing's changing in the foreseeable future with how we run missions overseas. It's going to require government providing resources and contracts to execute that using industry, which is the best tool that we've ever figured out. It is the most capable and the most efficient tool to execute the work of our governments around the world.
It's important work, and I think gave you a lot of perspective, set, and you know, being the voice, I guess, of the contractor, right? Being able to talk to the government in a way, in a language that they would understand, would be extremely valuable. And I guess it's still what you're doing at a bigger scale with Amentum, right?
Absolutely. So Amentum acquired DynCorp in February of 2020. Amentum is a much bigger company, $14 billion of revenue, and it covers so much more territory than DynCorp International did. We have a huge business supporting the Legacy Manhattan Project, supporting the Department of Energy, supporting the National Nuclear Security Administration. We have a huge business supporting um, NASA. We have a huge business supporting intelligence agencies. So it's just significantly larger than DynCorp International and much more varied um, in the work that it's doing today. And so that's been exciting. It's an exciting opportunity to be part of this much bigger portfolio company supporting, still supporting the federal government, supporting international clients around the world as well. So it's definitely a bigger perch to see what's happening and how it can the work that contractors do can support important missions, critical missions around the world.
Obviously, they have a lot of trust in you. You're the kind of the face to the government in many ways for a $14
Well,
billion
thank you.
integrator.
That's a fine compliment.
It's and it's a great leadership team.
Thank you. I agree. I'm honored to be a part of the organization.
And so along the way, you in your free time, you had time to get involved in building a think tank originally called the Project 2049 Institute. We'll talk about that
Project
name
2049.
and now
Yes,
reflagged, renamed now into the Institute for Indo Pacific Security. Is that right?
that's correct. So in 2008, Andy Shriver started this think tank, Project 2049, and his initial focus was to look at the China-Taiwan challenge. Taiwan is actually, The Economist had an article a couple years ago, and it said the most dangerous place on earth. And the reason is that the PRC, the People's Republic of China, despite never having governed the island, says that Taiwan is an integral part of our nation and has to be reunited with the mainland. Um, as a result, they execute coercive activities every day. They provide threats. It's the most cyber attacked location on the face of the earth, and they're building a really robust capability that they say, if necessary, they will use to conquer the island, via force. And so that was the original problem set. Looking at that, what do you have to do to help Taiwan be more resilient? If Taiwan were to fall, and Taiwan is the linchpin between Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia. It literally sits at that spot on the South China Sea. It would completely reshape the first island chain, and that's a strategic challenge. That's a national security concern for the United States government, is maintaining, the ability to have free commerce in the South China Sea, the busiest sea lane in the world. Um, so that's an important problem set over the years. And I was a board member in 2008. The minute I left government, the first thing I did was I joined Project 2049 as a board member. Randy hired me as Richard Armitage's chief of staff. And
Okay.
so I've had a long-standing, very fortunate relationship with Randy, who has a remarkable government career in his own right. um, Over the course of the years, Project 2049 sort of captured more space. So we became intimately involved in looking at how Japan views the Indo-Pacific and the free and open Pacific from Japan's perspective. We started working on the Australia relationship. We really invested in the Pacific Islands. We've now got a program working on Korea. So as we sort of built out this larger portfolio, we were still sort of branded as Project 2049, the Taiwan guys. And so one of the things we sat down and did is we really cherished that name, Project 2049, as a phenomenal brand. But we said, we really should do something that reflects our broader work. And so we strategized and came up with the phrase, the Institute for Indo-Pacific Security. A double IPS is what we call it.
Double
And
IPS. Right?
it's exciting to be a part of that. People always say, why China? Why the Indo-Pacific? When I had the opportunity to work on Afghanistan and terrorism, that was the most important issue in the world. The how to address the global war on terror was the most important issue. The most important issue in the world today is the U.S. relationship with the People's Republic of China and how the United States will continue to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific. And so the chance to be a part of that now and deeply involved in that is something I'm really passionate about. Again, it's what I'm focused on with my PhD, and I'm thrilled to have this perch at double IPS to talk about these issues every day and to be involved with scholars who are thinking about how to advance U.S. national security interests, how to support our alliances throughout the region. So it's a
That's
lot of fun.
fascinating. I think you told me Project 2049. That name is was it the 50th anniversary of
That's right. That'll be the
right?
2049 is the 50th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party.
This party.
Um,
Okay.
a little bit of tongue in cheek there. I'm sure President or Chairman Xi doesn't love the fact that this sort of not necessarily this thorn in his side is called 2049. If nothing else, he was providing us a lot of great publicity. He talks about 2049 all the time.
That's great. Yeah, we had a previous guest, Lieutenant General Abu Nahom. I don't know if you had I think you met him at
Yes.
one of the events, but yeah, just him talking about that whole problem set is fascinating.
Yeah,
The role of
it
Alaska
is.
and Indo-PACOM,
No
also
doubt about it.
fascinating.
We are we are a Pacific power. Alaska's island chains go deep into the Pacific, not to mention Hawaii and Guam. So, maintaining a free and open Pacific is, I think, the most critical issue facing the United States and the world today. So it's exciting to be a part of that.
What a career! I mean, and now you're the face of to the government for a $14 billion multinational integrator. You're helping lead a cutting edge think tank. You're getting your
Thank
PhD.
you.
I didn't know that. You're running a farm, which I've seen your hands are always all cut up. So you're clearly not just out there planting
I was
daisies.
feeding cows this morning.
You're a hardworking man, and on top of all that, even though you know how painful it is, now what an honor it is actually. You've had this long association with the ISOA, the International Stability Operations Association, which is a 21, 22-year-old association that basically represents the interest of the kind of the government contracting community that does international or OCONUS contracting to include U.S. government, NATO, United Nations. So it is truly an international organization. And you've been on the board there for years. You were the previous chair a few years back, and now you're coming back again for your second seat as the chairman for ISOA. And but what a great, if you look at your background and the perspective you bring, and obviously the leadership and the knowledge of the industry and the expertise in a region that's also very critical to our government and to our contracting community. We're really lucky to have you coming back again to help take ISOA to the next level. So I want to spend quite a bit of time now talking about um, why would you come back? Why a second round? I mean, you did such a good job the first time, and you're sandwiched between a couple of really great leaders as the chair, and now you're coming back again. So why are you coming back to ISOA, John?
Well, first and foremost, I want to completely agree with you that ISOA's board of directors is a group of really talented executives focusing on the role of the government contractor to support national security and foreign policy objectives for not only the United States, but our allies and partners around the world. And it's a thrill to be able to work with that group of individuals um, to advocate on behalf of our industry. And that's what the association does. It advocates on behalf of our industry. Um, why did I come back for a second term? Well, I was asked and I said yes. um, and you know, leading a board like this is not terribly difficult. These are all extraordinarily, you remember the board, these are all extraordinarily successful individuals. And really what the job of the chair is to try to appreciate the perspectives of the board and then to translate that perspective to the staff so that they can execute that mission. And so it sounds more taxing than it is, but the reality is you're working with a really talented team of individuals to just keep the organization pointed in the right direction. Excuse me. I'm excited about the future of the association. Yes, one of the first thing I did when I left government in 2008 was I joined the IPS board. The second thing I did was I joined ISOA, and I've been thrilled with that association ever since. I really feel like we are a critical piece of the GovCon network to be able to advocate on behalf of the entire industry and to talk about the needs and requirements so that missions get done properly. And a lot of times, the government comes to us and says, "What do you think?" And so for us to be able to say, "Well, we think this," that's a really important role. we actually have a dialogue that we have with the government. We have a number of dialogues, but we have a quarterly call with the Department of Defense where we say, here's what we're thinking. What are you thinking? We swap notes back and forth. We have a monthly exchange with the Joint Staff.
Mhm.
We have a biannual, I mean, it's twice a year, right? We have a 2 times a year war game that we conduct, the tabletop exercise. The next war game that we'll conduct will be on the margins of our Wiesbaden conference in Germany. When is that? That's coming up here in April, and
Yep.
so I'm excited to have that. We're kicking off the planning of that tabletop exercise here shortly. What the government wants is all right. So there's a changing structure of sort of who's in Europe and is it supported. How do you guys think we can do the best job, the most efficient job to make sure that that our forces, not only U.S. forces but NATO forces, have the best possible support that can be provided by industry? And so that's a really daunting and important job, and I can't wait for that opportunity. If you guys are interested out there, contact the ISOA, Roxanne Kaufman, Jenny Maycock, Howie Lynn. Say I want to be part of the war game because those seats go quick. We'll conduct another one of these exercises on the margins of our Indo Pacific conference, which is in September of 2026. Same concept. So how are we going to support all of the activities in the Indo Pacific the best way possible, working in concert with our allies, partners to do that? So, those are the kinds of things we work on at ISOA. Critically important stuff. Again, thrilled to be a part of an amazing group of people, board of directors who are helping lead that org.
Great. Yeah, I've grown up in the industry, kind of like you. I mean, I've been on the
Yeah,
industry side almost 27 years. And when I first saw ISOA, I was like, well, that's brilliant. I mean, because we're international and you're spread out and it's fragmented, and it's competitive, and but to have a place where we all can call home and we get together, we have the same problem sets. We're dealing with problem
without a
sets that
doubt.
most of GovCon doesn't deal with. They don't deal with taxation issues or when COVID came, how do you handle third country national workforces and for vaccinations and really unique problem sets that your typical CONUS domestic government contractors don't deal with. And I thought, what a great idea! I got involved the first time I went. I had lunch with Ambassador Crocker at the first summit too, and I was like, well, this is awesome. What a great
Yeah,
place
it
to be.
doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
Doesn't get
So for
better than
those that
that.
don't know ISOA, just a little, just about the association, help me fill this in. It's 21, 22 years old, right?
I think it's obviously started as IPOA
Right.
to represent security companies working in support of our mission in Iraq and Afghanistan. Um, by the time 20 uh, early 2010s, we recognized that the association was much bigger than security. We recognized that stability was a better term, and there's actually a discussion today about whether or not stability is big enough. Because what we really are is stability and security and sustainment, and there's lots of S's you can fill in there. So, um, you know, understanding and appreciating just how big that framework of ISOA is something that we'll dig into this year as the board. We'll dig into how do we best identify all the stuff that we do and all the things that we do in support of our clients and customers as an association. So it's something we'll spend a little time on
Yeah.
at the board.
And so anybody out there in the audience, if you haven't been around it, so it's a well-established association, nonprofit. It's nonpartisan. You never hear anything partisan there, which is great
And we
because
really assiduously work to make sure that's the case.
support whoever's in charge, and also any country too. It's over 200 companies, and you're everything from your large integrators like your Amentums and your KBRs to niche service providers like we do the talent side, but there are companies that do medical,
Yes.
aviation. There's a growing technology community within ISOA, a lot of UAS type companies that are also involved, but also everything from Intel. And then your standard logistics. It's a fascinating group of people. I conceptualize with ISOA when I describe it to people, it's the platform that connects. On one side, you have industry, companies that are wanting to do business with the government. On the other side, you have governments, different contracting offices, policymakers, and they need to talk to each other. They need to communicate. We're the ones that ISOA helps put them together. And so that if industry needs access to government, well, that's what we do. You go to that Wiesbaden event, you're going to hear from every contracting office in Europe about future requirements, their needs, their mission. And on the government side, if you need access to industry, you go to ISOA, because in a non-biased way, ISOA can provide a voice to hundreds of companies that have tremendous capabilities that just greatly enhance what any government can do on their own. So it's a really cool community.
Well, and if I could jump on that invitation that you just extended to those in your audience, the next opportunity for companies to get a sense of the work that we're doing, the important work that we're doing, will be our global summit. That summit will be 12, 13, 14 January in Washington, D.C. at the Willard Hotel downtown. Willard is a historic location. Ulysses S. Grant used to hang out there, and when he would come to town to talk with Abraham Lincoln. So it's a cool spot, regardless of whether or not you come to the summit. But the summit's going to be a really remarkable 3 days. We've got the best lineup of speakers that I can recall. We've got the Undersecretary of Defense, Dale Marks, talking about the necessary acquisitions and sustainment activities in his organization. Mike Miller is the Director of Defense Security Cooperation Agency. We've got a couple members of Congress. We've got a couple of folks from the White House coming over. And that's just on the keynote side. The panels are really, really thoughtful. This year we've got, Jake just talked about the role of technology and AI. We've got a group of experts coming from the Washington Post who are going to talk about how the tech industry and AI is coming to Washington and coming to impact all the work that every organization is doing around the world. So sort of getting on top of that and getting an early glimpse into what the future may hold is going to be remarkable. I'll be doing a panel on the Indo Pacific again. I've got a great group of people. I've got Lieutenant General Jen Short, former DJ5 at Indo-PACOM. I've got a member of the House Armed Services Committee staff to give us a congressional perspective on there. We'll have a company talking about how they're conceptualizing it. So it's going to be just a ton of opportunity to learn, and all your best friends are going to be there. All the companies involved in our space are going to be there. And we put a lot of thought and planning into keynotes, and we put a lot of thought and planning into panels. The most important thing that happens at an ISOA event is networking.
Absolutely.
And being there with your peers, talking about challenges, talking about partnering. We spend a lot of time on partnerships. We actually do something called business matchmaking, which I love.
Fantastic.
And it's our supply chain. It's how our supply chain comes together. So if you haven't already signed up for the summit, I encourage you to do so. Moreover, if you'd like to come to the summit and have some visibility, there's an opportunity for you to sponsor and put your name in lights. So
yeah, it's great.
Think about
Great way to get your brand out and your mission. I have the pleasure every year. I host the CEO panel. I have 5 CEOs from across the industry to talk about what's on the minds of the top leaders in the industry.
It's always our ultimate panel, and it's the hook that keeps everybody in the room. So we're excited
a lot of fun.
We're excited to have that panel sort of close us out again, as always.
Yeah. So for the audience, if you haven't been to an ISOA event, this is the best one. I'm on the fringes helping put it together, but it's going to be great content. It's in a year like 2025 that has really been transformational, head spinning in the amount of changes. Word. This is a really good way to kick off your 2026, to come in and get hear directly from people who are making these changes, that are leading these changes, to come in and in a very efficient way and just find out where things are going to be heading going forward, making good connections, having fun, being at the tip of the spear of foreign policy. It's a fantastic event. So highly recommended. The BD value, I say dollar for dollar, is the best business development investment you can make in your business is joining ISOA if you're doing international.
Hear, hear.
All right. We all agree on that. What else does ISOA have planned for 2026? What's our
we've got a
busy
big
year.
year. It is going to be a big year. And one of the first most important issues we'll challenge is that after 10 years, Howie Lind has let us know that this will be his last. He's led the organization for 10 years and done an amazing job. But we'll have to transition to a new leader, and that's going to be so important to make sure that we set the course for the future. And so finding that next leader is job number one for the board of directors. And so we'll put a lot of thought into that, working with Howie to make sure we get that done just right. We're going to try real hard to keep Howie around with some kind of consultancy because he's got just too much experience to go away. But that's number one. We talked about number two. We talked about the fact that S means more than just stability, and so we're gonna talk about how to make sure we do a small rebrand to reflect that we're more than a stability organization, and so that our government clients can appreciate just how broad we are. We've got so many interesting chapters around the globe, and we need a consistent policy. Our policy is a little new because chapters are new for ISOA, but that's something we're going to put some thought into, is to make sure we have that just so that those chapters can flourish and bring more opportunity to the ISOA, the central ISOA. So those are three of the big topics that we're going to have to address over the course of the year. Beyond that, importantly, we're going to make sure that we continue to have the best possible slate of events. In addition to the summit, we've got a Middle East conference right after that in early February. Talk about an impactful area, all that's going on in Gaza, the changes in Syria, the continued evolutions in Iraq, the work that the Gulf cooperation countries are doing today. This is going to be as big an event as any. We'll continue to focus on Europe, Ukraine, and
Jordan,
Europe.
right?
That's right. That's Amman, Jordan, February 3rd through the 5th.
Great place in the Middle East, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got an amazing slate of events for 2026, and to be a part of that and be involved in that is super exciting.
Yeah. So I think in April we got Wiesbaden, right?
That's right. We've got Wiesbaden. That's where April 14th through 16th. And we'll have our tabletop exercise immediately preceding the actual conference. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about our outcomes during the course of the conference.
Yeah, folks, we have everybody. We have DLA there. We have Corps of Engineers. We have DECA. We have NSPA, NATO, NCIA. If it's contracting and it happens in Europe, we have the contracting offices there. And we do the matchmaking with the contracting offices. We get a chance to sit down with them one-on-one. It's gold dust. It's great stuff. It's great stuff. We have a Department of State small business event. We have
we have the small business event. I mentioned the Indo Pacific conference. We have a conference in Miami, Florida. We call it the Americas Conference. And, the work we do tends to be international, but obviously, as the national security strategy of the United States that was recently released says, a lot more of that focus is what's happening here on our own hemisphere, what's happening here on the border of the United States. And so we're going to talk about what's happening in the hemisphere, what's happening on the border, to make sure that we are postured appropriately to support those efforts. And if you're tracking Western Hemisphere right now, you're aware that there's a lot going on, and so being ready to execute is so important. And that's what our conferences do. It's be ready. This is the Be Ready Forum.
Absolutely. So September, we're back out in Indo-Pacom. Is that right? In
September
Hawaii?
Indo-Pacom, and November we'll do the summit.
Busy year coming up.
Busy.
I can't wait. Again, to our audience out there and even the international companies, John mentioned these chapters, and this is something we're getting a lot of energy behind. And it's to just have we just had a sundowner in Nairobi, Kenya for our
150 people.
150 people showed up for that. So ongoing events. We got a lot going on in Europe. We have a sub chapter or kind of a smaller chapter down in Southeast Europe in Kosovo, where we have Bondstill and a considerable NATO presence down there. We have a chapter out in Poland. We got a lot going on in Europe. We have a Middle East chapter, which is putting together some great events. So it's not just in DC. So if you're interested in ISOA, it's truly global, and get involved in these chapters. It's a great way to build your local network and to make a difference.
Right on.
So we got a big year coming up, John. I can't wait for the summit. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be educational. It's kicking off a real busy year for ISOA, and it's kicking off another chairmanship for you. So look forward to that great event.
As do I. It's
Yeah.
going to be. You're right. It is. It's a really exciting year coming up, and there's obviously a lot of work to do, but we're ready. We're ready to represent our industry, and ready to make sure that we are putting our best face forward. So I can't agree with you more. This is our chance to really, really set the course for the next couple of years.
How do you see, this is the Future of GovCon, the podcast, and I like to challenge the guests looking forward beyond January and even 2026. How do you think the industry is going to look? What's going to be driving the industry? Let's go ahead 3 years. It's 2028. What does the industry look like? Maybe the ISOA area of the industry. What do we look like?
Well, I think there's no doubt that just like with every sector, artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing, all of these things are going to transform the industry. I think about the Indo Pacific in particular. If you can have a printer produce a part in some island in the Pacific Islands and not have to ship it across the Pacific, it does a couple things. Drives costs down. It obviously is no longer vulnerable to potential coercive activities or even kinetic activities. And so that's a transformation that we're just on the cutting edge of. Similarly, the way to get things out front, our government client told us at the Indo-Pacific War Game that they're looking for Amazon.com. They're looking for Amazon.com around the world through a military procurement system. And our response to that was it took 20 years to build that infrastructure. It didn't, Amazon didn't pop up overnight. It's 20 years to build that. If they want it, they're going to have to pay to build it. And so I anticipate in 2026 and 2027 and into 2028, investments around the globe to reshape what the future of the industry looks like, to overcome the challenges of contested logistics. And contested logistics aren't just in the Pacific. They're also located in Europe. They're located in Africa. So we're going to have to overcome that contested logistics challenge. We are going to be more nimble. We have to be. It's the way that certainly the U.S. government has asked us to be. I think there's also, this the new commercial diplomacy approach from the Trump administration. I don't think that goes away. I think that becomes the norm going forward. And so how can we partner with non-traditional GovCon organizations to advance the requirements that the U.S. government and NATO countries and our partners from the Pacific are looking for around the world. So I see a lot going on there. The energy challenge is something that we're going to have to put a lot of time and effort into transforming, the flow of fossil fuels. That's a real significant vulnerability. Big tankers, those are neat targets. So, these are the kind of things that I think we're right on the cusp of. And I expect over the next 3 years, the globe to become more clear, the crystal ball to start showing us, okay, this is what it's going to look like. But we have an opportunity to shape that. And that's what we need to be doing from ISOA's perspective. We can just sit back and let it happen, or we can shape it. And so that's what we really want to be part of, is shaping that future. Crystal ball is going to come into focus. We're going to be putting inputs in that baby.
Great. Yeah, fantastic. Speaking of crystal balls in the future, give me one word that summarizes kind of your gut feeling about the future of this section of government contract.
Well, I was thinking about a word that I've been using throughout this conversation, and that is excited. I'm excited for the summit. I'm excited for the Wiesbaden conference. I'm excited for the Middle East conference. I'm excited for the future of the industry because I think there's so much happening, and there's so many opportunities to bring us to the next level, to evolve where we are today into the next iteration of the GovCon industry. So excited is the word I'm going to use.
I'm excited with you. I feel it. I feel it.
Hoorah.
Well, John, just such an honor and a pleasure to have you here on our podcast.
My honor.
You're a leader of in the industry. You're a gentleman, and I look forward to working with you over the next year on the board of directors at ISOA and watching us as we help shape the future of the industry. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you so much, Jake. Thank you for the opportunity to be on the Future of GovCon. And I look forward to seeing all of you at an upcoming ISOA event.
I'll see you in a month.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yes.
All right, to our guests, thanks for tuning in today to the Future of GovCon podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing from John. What a great career. What a great vision for the industry. If you liked it, share this with your network, put it up on social media, make sure you're subscribed. And we look forward to seeing you next week on the next episode of the Future of GovCon. Take care, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and some of the bold predictions. If you did, take a second, share it on your social media, subscribe on YouTube. If you have any ideas for future guests or topics you'd like to have covered, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always there. And you can always learn more about precision talent solutions at pts.careers. Look forward to seeing you next week on our next episode.